Hello, welcome to Thor Talk, the show all about Marvel's resident god of thunder, where I discuss Thor feats, battles, story arcs, villains, and more. On this episode of Thor Talk, it's the War Thor versus Jane Thor in the War of Thors. Plus, we look at everything Thor related that happened in Marvel Legacy number 1 on Thor Talk.
I am Thor the Thunderer, son of Odin, Prince of Asgard. I am an Avenger, and this world is under my protection.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
If you're not caught up on all of the story of the War of Thor so far, then hit the links below to watch the previous episodes. The Mighty Thor number 23 was written by Jason Aaron in September of 2017. In the last issue, Jane transported War Thor to the Yawning Void, and it is there that the War of Thors begins. Jane throws Mjolnir at War Thor, but War Thor uses his Warhammer to knock the hammer to Vanaheim, where a wizard recognizes the fallen hammer as a sign of the War of Thors. As Jane is attacked, Baldur, king of the dead, watches from afar in Niflheim. Then Mjolnir attacks War Thor from behind, knocking his hammer out of his hands as Jane holds both hammers. The hammer's rage starts to overtake her, and she uses them both to knock War Thor to Svartalheim. War Thor tells her that it was no accident that they wound up in Svartalheim. The hammer wants them to raze the realm to the ground. But Jane refuses and throws War Thor's hammer away as she realizes it corrupts those who wield it. But the hammer does not fly away, and instead goes to the hand of War Thor as he begins to destroy the entire realm of Svartalheim. Meanwhile, in Asgardia, Raz Solomon tells Thor Odinson that the War Thor is in fact Volstagg. Jane and War Thor continue to fight as War Thor tears Svartalheim to shreds. Thor slams War Thor into the ground and demands that he lay down his hammer and stop the madness. Raz tells Jane that the War Thor is Volstagg as Thor and War Thor clash in the sky. Jane then puts down Mjolnir, turning into her human form, and speaks to Volstagg as her friend, asking him to remember who he is. Volstagg puts the hammer down, and Jane comforts him. Thor walks over to War Thor's hammer and commands it to return to old Asgard, and to Raz's astonishment, it obeys him. Now, Muspelheim attacks Niflheim, Roxanne of Midgard attacks Vanaheim, and Malekith proposes an alliance with the Queen of Heaven. As the War of Thors ends, a new war has begun. For the War of Realms is on the horizon, and nothing will ever be the same. So that's it for the War of Thors, and while it did have 3 people who are at least somewhat Thor, it was really more of a skirmish than a war. It seems that everything is leading up to the War of Realms, and hopefully this will actually qualify as a war. It was good to see Thor actually do something, but again, he shows up, hits something once or twice, and Jane solves the problem. It seems that Jason Aaron has forgotten him in favor of his own creation. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Move back, mortals. Thor the Thunderer will deal with these villains.
So, here is everything in Marvel Legacy related to Thor and his mythos. Thousands of years ago, Odin uses Mjolnir to fight off a Celestial, with help from prehistoric versions of Marvel characters such as Phoenix and Iron Fist. Mjolnir clearly does not want to do Odin's bidding, but Odin has enough control over it to use it. We also get confirmation that Odin created Earth as he has in other stories. The prehistoric Avengers defeat the Celestial and bury it deep into the earth. In modern times, Thor Odinson continues to drink as one of Odin's seers discovers that Mangog is coming. and he commits suicide on the Rainbow Bridge out of fear. Also in modern times, Loki has sent a small band of frost giants to retrieve an Infinity Stone from S.H.I.E.L.D. Their plans are complicated when Jane, Sam Wilson, and Ironheart appear to stop them, but one manages to get away with the stone. However, he is killed by Wolverine, who takes the stone from him. Loki seems to care little for the loss of the stone, as he finds the Celestial that Odin defeated thousands of years ago, and says that he will help it summon the final host. Well, that's all for this episode of Thor Talk. If you want to keep up with Thor Talk and all Thor-related news, follow Thor Talk on Instagram at Thor Talk. You can also keep up with and support Thor Talk by simply subscribing. Also, next episode, we will begin Ragnaroktober, where I will prepare you all for the release of Thor Ragnarok by going through comics that the movie is based off of. Once again, I'd like to formally state that all art and video is owned by its respected companies, and I own none of it. With that said, see you next time on Thor Talk, where...
You'll be holding